The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the sterile corridors of the Mirage Palace Casino as the clock struck 2:03 a.m. on August 14th, 2019. Security cameras captured what would later become the most analyzed 11 minutes of footage in Las Vegas criminal history. A solitary figure in a crisp blue uniform wheeled a maintenance cart down the marble hallway. Daniel Price, 38, moved with the practiced confidence of a man who had walked these halls for nearly a decade. His magnetic key card beeped softly as he accessed the high-security vault staging area. The cameras showed him entering with an empty cart and exiting 11 minutes later with sealed cash transport bags stacked neatly under a casino laundry tarp. By morning, $20 million would be gone, and so would he. Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable heist, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling us what city you're watching from. I always love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. Daniel Marcus Price was born in Reno, Nevada, on a frigid December morning in 1980. His father worked construction on the casino boom projects. His mother cleaned hotel rooms on the Strip. They were hardworking people who taught Daniel the value of discipline and keeping your head down. After high school, Daniel enlisted in the Army Military Police, serving 2 tours overseas that left him with a Bronze Star and an unshakable attention to detail. His commanding officer, Colonel James Watanabe, would later tell investigators that Daniel possessed an almost supernatural ability to notice what others missed. When Daniel returned to civilian life in 2009, Las Vegas was still reeling from the financial crisis. Jobs were scarce, but his military background and security clearance made him an attractive candidate for casino work. The Mirage Palace hired him as a Level 2 security officer at $18.50 per hour. For 10 years, Daniel Price was the model employee. He never called in sick, never complained about overtime, and had a spotless record. Co-workers described him as quiet but reliable, the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday but rarely talked about himself. Daniel was invisible in the best way, recalls his former supervisor, Maria Santos. Management loved him because he was dependable. The other guards respected him because he never threw anyone under the bus. In a business built on watching for trouble, Daniel was the guy everyone trusted. But beneath the surface, Daniel was drowning. His personnel file, obtained through court records, revealed a man struggling with gambling addiction. Despite working in a casino, or perhaps because of it, Daniel had accumulated over $127,000 in debt across 17 different credit cards and personal loans. His modest salary couldn't keep pace with his losses at the poker tables, and the minimum payments alone consumed 85% of his take-home pay. The irony wasn't lost on investigators. A man paid to protect millions of dollars couldn't protect himself from losing hundreds. Casino security operates on a principle called layered protection, multiple systems working together to eliminate any single point of failure. But Daniel Price had a decade to study those layers, and he discovered something troubling. Every system has seams. The Mirage Palace processed approximately $2.8 billion in cash annually, with peak volume occurring after major events like championship boxing matches or high-roller poker tournaments. The money flowed through the casino like blood through arteries, collected from tables and slots, counted in secure rooms, and stored in a basement vault complex that rivaled Fort Knox. Daniel's security clearance gave him access to areas most employees never saw. Over the years, he had worked every shift rotation and covered for colleagues during holidays and emergencies. This exposure revealed patterns that the casino's security designers never intended one person to observe. The most critical discovery came during a power outage in March 2017. When backup generators kicked in, Daniel noticed that for exactly 14 minutes, the vault staging area had only partial camera coverage due to a blind spot created by an emergency lighting unit. More importantly, during shift changes at 2 a.m., both outgoing and incoming security teams assumed the other was monitoring the vault corridor. Daniel spent 2 years documenting this vulnerability, explains Dr. Rachel Torres, a forensic accountant who consulted on the investigation. He kept meticulous notes in a small journal hidden in his locker. Timestamps, camera angles, guard positions. It read like a military operation manual. The journal, discovered weeks after the heist, contained sketches of the vault layout, guard rotation schedules, and even weather patterns. Daniel had noted that security was most relaxed during August nights when the desert heat made everyone sluggish and inattentive. But the most chilling entry was dated 3 months before the theft. The perfect crime isn't about what you take. It's about what nobody notices is missing. August 13th, 2019 began like any other day for Daniel Price. He arrived at work at 10 p.m. for his night shift, nodding politely to colleagues and settling into his usual routine. But this night was different. The Mirage Palace had just concluded the Summer High Roller Invitational, a 3-day poker tournament that had drawn players from around the world. The tournament generated massive cash flow. Surveillance footage from earlier that day showed armored car services making 6 separate deposits to the vault complex. By evening, more than $40 million sat in the basement staging areas, awaiting transport to the Federal Reserve Bank. Daniel had volunteered for overtime that night, a gesture his supervisors appreciated but never questioned. His colleagues saw a dedicated employee earning extra money. Investigators would later realize they were watching a man position himself for the biggest theft in Nevada history. At 11:30 p.m., Daniel made his first strategic move. While conducting a routine equipment check, he loosened a connection on camera 7, which monitored the primary corridor to the vault staging area. The camera didn't fail completely. That would have triggered immediate alerts. But it developed an intermittent glitch that caused brief blackouts every few minutes. It was brilliant in its simplicity, admits casino security consultant Marcus Webb. A complete camera failure would have sent technicians running. But an intermittent glitch during the graveyard shift? That goes on the maintenance list for the next business day. Daniel spent the next 2 hours establishing his alibi. He made his regular security rounds, chatted with dealers on their breaks, and even helped resolve a minor dispute between intoxicated guests. Security footage shows him performing his duties normally while internally counting down to 2 a.m. At 1:45 a.m., Daniel retrieved a maintenance cart from the housekeeping department. Nothing unusual. Security guards often use these carts to transport confiscated items or lost property. He wheeled it to a service elevator near the vault level, positioning it just outside Camera 7's erratic field of view. The night security supervisor, Robert Kim, was completing his final rounds. The incoming morning shift supervisor, Lisa Chen, was reviewing incident reports from the previous day. For exactly 15 minutes, both assumed the other was covering the vault corridor. Daniel had studied this transition for 2 years. He knew it by heart. At 2:03 a.m., Daniel Price swiped his access card and entered the vault staging area. The room resembled a bank's counting house with steel tables, electronic scales, and rows of secured cash storage units. Money from the poker tournament sat in sealed transport bags, each tagged with verification codes and destined for different financial institutions. Daniel moved with surgical precision. His Army training had taught him that successful operations depend on speed and systematic execution. He had mentally rehearsed this moment hundreds of times. First, he selected 23 specific transport bags containing high-denomination bills. These bags were scheduled for Federal Reserve pickup the following Monday, meaning their absence wouldn't be noticed until the weekend was over. Each bag contained approximately $875,000. Serial numbers would later reveal they held some of the cleanest, most untraceable currency in the vault. Daniel didn't grab randomly, explains FBI forensic accountant Jennifer Ross. He chose bags containing bills that had been in circulation longest, with serial numbers from multiple Federal Reserve districts. This made tracking exponentially more difficult. Loading the money took exactly 6 minutes. Daniel layered the cash bags under fresh casino linens, creating the appearance of a routine laundry delivery. He even added actual towels and sheets on top, complete with housekeeping tags. At 2:09 a.m., Camera 7's intermittent glitch provided the critical blind spot Daniel needed. He wheeled the cart into the service corridor, bypassing the main security checkpoint, where guards might have questioned an after-hours housekeeping delivery. The service elevator descended to the loading dock level, where Daniel had parked a rented moving van earlier that evening. The rental agreement, later traced by police, showed he had used a flawlessly forged Colorado driver's license in the name Marcus Webb, ironically the same name as the security consultant who would later analyze his methods. At 2:14 a.m., Daniel transferred the cash bags into the van and drove off the casino property. He returned 7 minutes later, parked in the employee lot, and clocked out at 2:24 a.m., officially ending his shift only 1 minute later than usual. Security cameras captured him walking to his Honda Civic and driving home, just as he had done thousands of times before. Saturday morning arrived with typical Las Vegas heat, and the 6 a.m. vault audit began routinely. Senior cashier Patricia Valdez unlocked the staging area and began her systematic count of transport bags scheduled for Monday pickup. The first discrepancy appeared at 6:17 a.m. Bag number 47A was missing from Federal Reserve shipment number 3. Valdez double-checked her manifest, thinking she had miscounted. Then bag number 52C couldn't be located. Then 5 more. By 6:30 a.m., Valdez realized the scope of the problem and contacted Vault Supervisor Michael Torres. Torres arrived within minutes and immediately secured the area while conducting an emergency recount. 23 bags were missing. The preliminary loss estimate was staggering, nearly $20 million. At 6:45 a.m., Torres activated the casino's highest-level security protocol. The Mirage Palace went into lockdown. No employee could leave the building until questioned by security. Gaming Control Board investigators arrived by 7:30 a.m., followed by FBI agents at 8:15 a.m. The first assumption was inside knowledge with multiple conspirators, recalls FBI Special Agent David Park, who led the investigation. A theft of this magnitude typically requires a team, someone with vault access, someone to transport the money, someone to launder it. The idea that one person could orchestrate this alone seemed impossible. The initial investigation focused on the wrong targets. Agents questioned armored car crews, vault technicians, and casino executives. They analyzed financial records of dozens of employees, looking for evidence of gambling debts or expensive purchases that might indicate criminal proceeds. Daniel Price wasn't even on the initial suspect list. His decade-long record of reliability actually worked as camouflage. Investigators assumed someone planning such an elaborate theft wouldn't have maintained perfect attendance and spotless evaluations. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: the malfunctioning Camera 7. 3 days into the investigation, FBI computer forensics specialist Amanda Liu began analyzing the casino's surveillance system. The Mirage Palace operated 1,247 cameras generating 24,000 hours of footage daily, but Liu noticed an anomaly in Camera 7's performance logs. The camera had experienced intermittent failures for exactly 72 hours leading up to the theft, an impossibly convenient timing that suggested deliberate sabotage rather than equipment malfunction. Liu's analysis revealed something even more interesting. The glitches occurred in a pattern that created predictable blind spots lasting 30 to 45 seconds each. Someone with detailed knowledge of the camera system had engineered these failures to provide precise windows of opportunity. This wasn't random vandalism, Liu explains. The perpetrator understood exactly how our surveillance system logged malfunctions and how long it took security personnel to respond to equipment alerts. They had weaponized the casino's own security protocols against us. Working backward from the camera evidence, investigators began reviewing personnel records for employees with both technical knowledge and vault access. Daniel Price's name appeared on a list of 47 potential suspects, but nothing distinguished him from his colleagues. The case might have stalled indefinitely if not for an observation by FBI behavioral analyst Dr. Michael Chang, who noticed that several employees had been eliminated as suspects because their work records were too perfect. In my experience, people planning major crimes often become model employees in the months before the offense, Dr. Chang explains. They don't want to attract attention or give supervisors any reason to scrutinize their behavior. Perfect attendance and exemplary performance can actually be red flags. This insight shifted the investigation's focus to the casino's most reliable employees, those who never missed work, never complained, and never drew attention to themselves. Daniel Price suddenly looked very interesting. FBI agents arrived at Daniel Price's Henderson duplex on August 20th, 6 days after the theft. They expected to find either a nervous suspect or concrete evidence of the missing money. Instead, they found an empty apartment and a carefully orchestrated disappearance. Daniel's belongings were gone, but he had left behind items that told a story. His Mirage Palace uniforms hung in the closet, pressed and ready for shifts he would never work. His ID badge sat on the kitchen counter next to a resignation letter dated August 15th, the day after the theft. Most unnervingly, Daniel had left behind his personal cell phone with a single text message sent to his own number. "Thank you for 10 years of faithful service." It was like finding a crime scene in reverse, describes Detective Lisa Morales, who processed the apartment. Most fugitives flee in panic, leaving behind chaos and evidence. Daniel's apartment looked like he was going on vacation and wanted everything neat for his return. The investigation revealed that Daniel had spent months preparing for his disappearance with the same methodical precision he had applied to the theft. He had gradually sold his furniture through online classifieds, closed bank accounts, and canceled subscriptions, all under the guise of financial reorganization to address his debt problems. More disturbing discoveries emerged from his personal effects. Hidden in a hollowed-out book, investigators found Daniel's theft planning journal containing detailed floor plans, guard schedules, and contingency scenarios. One entry, dated 2 weeks before the theft, was particularly chilling. The hardest part won't be taking the money, it will be becoming someone else. Daniel Price dies August 14th. The question is who gets born August 15th? FBI forensic accountants traced Daniel's financial preparations and found evidence of sophisticated money laundering research. He had studied cryptocurrency exchanges, offshore banking regulations, and identity document forgeries. This wasn't the desperate act of a gambling addict. It was a carefully planned transformation. The FBI investigation expanded internationally as agents realized they were pursuing not just a thief, but a man who had spent years learning how to disappear. Daniel's military background included intelligence training that had taught him surveillance detection and counter-surveillance techniques. Federal marshals traced the rented moving van to an industrial warehouse in North Las Vegas, where they found it stripped clean with no forensic evidence. The Colorado driver's license used for the rental led to a sophisticated identity theft involving a real person named Marcus Webb, who lived in Denver and had no connection to the case. Daniel had created at least 3 false identities that we could document, explains U.S. Marshal Jennifer Sanos. Each identity had supporting documents, credit histories, and even employment records. He had been living multiple lives simultaneously for at least 2 years. The investigation's most promising lead came from an unexpected source, Daniel's gambling addiction. Financial records showed he had lost approximately $3,000 per month at various Las Vegas poker rooms, but investigators noticed something unusual about his playing patterns. Dr. Sarah Kim, a forensic psychologist specializing in gambling disorders, analyzed Daniel's casino records and found evidence of strategic losses rather than compulsive gambling. His losses were too consistent and controlled, Dr. Kim explains. Real gambling addicts show erratic patterns. Big wins followed by devastating losses. Daniel's patterns suggested someone deliberately establishing a cover story for his debt problems. This revelation changed the investigation's timeline. Instead of planning the theft for months, Daniel may have been preparing for years, using fabricated gambling losses to explain his financial stress while secretly building the resources needed for his escape. International alerts went out to financial institutions monitoring large cash transactions. The FBI coordinated with Interpol, focusing on countries without extradition treaties and regions known for harboring financial fugitives. But Daniel Price had vanished as completely as the $20 million he had stolen. For 3 years, the Daniel Price investigation remained active but stagnant. FBI agents followed leads across 4 continents, investigating reported sightings in countries ranging from Panama to Thailand. Every lead turned cold, every witness proved unreliable, every financial trace ended in dead ends. The case might have joined the FBI's permanent unsolved files if not for an unlikely breakthrough in August 2022, exactly 3 years after the theft. Marcus Webb, the real Marcus Webb, whose identity Daniel had stolen for the van rental, contacted Colorado police about suspicious activity on a credit monitoring account he had forgotten about. Someone had been making small, regular payments on a credit card he had never opened. FBI forensic accountant Rachel Chen immediately recognized the significance. Identity thieves typically max out stolen credit cards and abandon them, Chen explains. Someone making minimum payments on a fraudulent account suggested long-term planning and maintenance of a false identity. The credit card payments traced to a bank account in Costa Rica, where financial privacy laws had previously blocked the FBI's investigation. But Costa Rica had recently signed new international cooperation agreements, and investigators could finally access previously protected records. The account belonged to Miguel Santos, a U.S. expatriate who had purchased a modest coffee farm in the mountains outside San Jose. The account showed regular deposits consistent with agricultural income, but also revealed something more interesting. The deposit patterns exactly match the payment schedule Daniel Price would have used to manage his gambling debts in Las Vegas. Even when creating a new life, people fall back on familiar patterns, explains FBI behavioral analyst Dr. Angela Rodriguez. Daniel was still managing his finances with the same methodical precision he had used as a security guard. Costa Rican authorities agreed to investigate Miguel Santos based on the FBI's evidence. What they found shocked everyone involved in the case. The coffee farm outside San Jose belonged to a quiet American expatriate who had lived in Costa Rica for 3 years. Neighbors knew him as Miguel Santos, a soft-spoken man who had inherited money from a deceased relative and decided to pursue a simpler life growing coffee beans. Miguel was well-liked in the small mountain community. He had learned Spanish fluently, attended local church services, and employed several families from the village to work his farm. He lived modestly in a 2-bedroom house with solar panels and a satellite internet connection, driving a 10-year-old Toyota pickup truck and shopping at the local market. When Costa Rican police arrived at the farm on August 14, 2022, exactly 3 years after the theft, they found Miguel Santos calmly harvesting coffee beans as if he had been expecting them. Miguel Santos was Daniel Price. When they arrested him, Daniel didn't run or resist or even seem surprised, recalls Costa Rican National Police Captain Carlos Mendoza. He just asked if he could finish picking the coffee cherries because they would rot if left on the trees too long. Even as a fugitive, he couldn't abandon his responsibilities. The farmhouse yielded extraordinary evidence of Daniel's transformation. He had taught himself sustainable agriculture through online courses, learned Spanish using language apps, and immersed himself so completely in rural Costa Rican culture that his neighbors genuinely believed he was a grieving widower seeking peace in the countryside. But hidden beneath the farmhouse, investigators found Daniel's greatest secret: the money. On a quiet Tuesday morning in August 2024, 5 years after Daniel Price walked out of the Mirage Palace with $20 million, FBI Special Agent David Park visited the FCI Herlong Prison Library, where Daniel now works cataloging legal texts and prison regulation manuals. I had to ask him the question that bothered me throughout the investigation, Agent Park recalls. If he could plan and execute the perfect crime, why couldn't he plan and execute a perfect solution to his debt problems? Daniel's response revealed the tragic flaw that had driven his downfall. Agent Park, I could plan the perfect crime because I understood systems and security and human nature, but I couldn't plan a perfect solution to my problems because the problem wasn't the debt. It was my shame about having the debt. You can't plan your way out of shame. You can only try to outrun it, and shame runs faster than anyone. The Daniel Price case remains a unique study in criminal psychology, demonstrating how good people can make catastrophic decisions when trapped by their own perfectionism and pride. His crime succeeded beyond his wildest imagination and failed beyond his darkest fears.